I'm bored. When and where am I going to use a quadratic equation? Shakespeare. Yeah, how long has he been dead? And what do you mean that I haven't researched? I have all this information from Wikipedia that's very accurate in front of me. And let me ask you another question. Why do we even have to learn this anyway? Now it's easy to discount such comments as laziness or even apathetic by our students, but they contain a legitimate challenge for us as educators to produce lessons that are both meaningful and purposeful inside and outside of the classroom. But is that really a realistic assumption or question or possibility in the wake of all of the harsh realities that we as educators confront every single day? What happens when over 80% of the students in front of you in September are reading and writing below grade level? That was my situation in September this fall. And normally I had a time and tested, proved formula. I would simply teach an extra literacy block. However, budget cuts had led to scheduling modifications and staff shortages, and that was no longer an option. And so, in my quest to find a pathway to accelerated learning, I asked myself a question that I now pose to you. What was a memorable lesson during the course of your academic career? What made it memorable? Now, for me, the answer consistently included one word: connection. Links to learning that actually broadened and validated my personal experience. Whether it was reading Moby Dick and understanding the limitations of mankind, or it was me beaming with pride as my dad hung my well carved in woodworking class on the family wall. What I discovered is that whenever the classroom connected with a personal or a real world context, authentic learning took place for me. And that's when I decided I needed to build a bridge. So I sprang into action and I recruited Mr. Gramapre, my colleague and fellow science teacher, and Ms. O'Neill, an arts teacher, and we met over the summer, and in September we launched Community Connects. It's a 7th grade specialty course in which students are challenged to identify, research, and create an action plan for an issue that has individual, local, national, and or global implications. You see, the idea is for students to embrace their role as global citizens who can actually synthesize their knowledge in order to do something about the problems that they see in the world. I mean, why do we teach? And whether you realize it or not, everybody in here is a teacher. Whether you are an older sibling, as I just saw, who loves to boss your younger sibling around, or you're an adult who actually trains other people for a job. The reason why we teach is that we want our students to be able to negotiate some aspect of their world, because the truth is the quality of an educational experience is measured by the application of that knowledge in the real world, long after the high school diplomas have been distributed or the degrees conferred. And if we truly want our students to extend their learning beyond the pages of a textbook or a website, then we've got to broaden their learning beyond the four walls of a classroom or the four corners of a computer screen. And global citizenship, I discovered, is just one pathway, a nexus to allow this to happen. Take, for example, what happened in Community Connects. Now, we started off the year watching a 60 minutes video on gaming addiction. And after watching it, we became very curious about the gaming habits of the entire school community. And so it motivated us to actually sit down and take an addiction quiz. Now, I was excited this day because I was ready to expose every 2K, Fortnite enthusiast in my classroom. So we sit down and we're taking this quiz, and 2 questions in, I realize I'm in trouble because Wordscapes qualifies as a digital game. And I love Wordscapes. And sure enough, by the time the testing ended, I was classified as a borderline addict. Now, it was never my intention. It was never my intention to expose my vices to a group of 7th graders. However, this reality actually informed them that addiction tendencies can affect anyone, including their teacher. And it also motivated them to launch an ad campaign that not only addressed their peers, but also adults. And thus far, these students have actually watched as well as created videos. They have composed surveys and administered them. They have interviewed professional game designers. They've interviewed a nationally recognized behavioral scientist. And they have even grander plans for the future. And in the midst of all of this, I'm watching as their language becomes more elevated, and their reading becomes more purposeful, and their writing becomes more concise. So there's a couple of things that's driving the success of Community Connects. The first is that it's a student-centered curriculum. And there is nothing more powerful to middle schoolers than the pronoun me. The second thing is that these students are being charged with taking responsibility for their personal choices. And so that then means that what these young global citizens are doing is that they're acting as professionals do. I mean, chefs cook, fashionistas style, debaters argue everywhere, all the time. Scientists question is the action that leads to competency and ultimately mastery. So then, how do we actually incorporate all of this into our present day curricula? Well, the first thing, simply find an inquiry. I mean, how do we solve global warming? How do we solve the global hunger crisis? Should Fortnite be banned? Should college be free? Yes, no. That wasn't a part of the speech. I was still in the moment. But all of these issues affect us. And all of these issues have scientific, medical, economic, and other implications that require us to synthesize knowledge in order to forge a solution. The second thing that we must do is that we must collaborate. Whether you want to start a class, a school, or just initiate a lesson plan, find a like-minded individual to share that journey with you. Now, there are obstacles. Time and money, there's never enough of it. But you just keep moving. And in addition to that, there's another obstacle. Sometimes visions of behavioral management nightmares whirl in our head when we think about student choice. But all of these obstacles are surmountable. Take advantage of free resources like libraries and museums, and seek out volunteers in the form of parents and other teachers and school partners. Look, progress may be slow, but it happens. I remember when our principal first approached Mr. Vermontbray and I about our initial roster. We claimed that we wanted 40 to 50 students in our class, and we meant it, 40 to 50 students. We got 8. And so much for mass impact, we thought. But unbeknownst to us, those 8 that original gang of 8, they went out and they started recruiting and pitching the class, and we now have 20 students, and we don't want any more. Yeah, our principal was right about that one. But the point is that it's not perfect, but we believe that we're moving in the right direction. George Washington Carver once stated that if you can do a common thing in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world. Now, teaching standard-based curricula is common, and it needs to be because our students need to have basic skills, right, and knowledge. I still am advocating for my extra literacy class because it is necessary. However, the ultimate purpose of college and career preparedness is to prepare our students to actually enter a world stage. So Shakespeare, the quadratic equation, and research, and all of the subjects that we teach, they're all relevant to finding some kind of solution to the societal ills that we face every single day. And that's why it is time that we begin to universally require that our academic learning actually connects up with some kind of practical experience. Because if we trust the learning potential of a child who truly owns their role as a citizen in this world, then we as educators can start instructing in such a way that our children are not only prepared to enter a 21st century world, but to actually transform it into a better place. Thank you.